Hey everyone, welcome back to the PFF Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Valenzuela. Join with me again, back together, Ben Brown, PFF Senior Data Scientist, our first off-season podcast. So we're going to go through the 2021 betting performance review, some quarterback stuff. It's going to be a jam-packed show. So excited to have you all back. Let's get into it. Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus, minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. It feels like it's been forever, and now we're in the heat, and now it's the off season. How are you doing? Are you doing okay with no football, like nothing really going on yet?
Yeah, I am feeling pretty good. I actually enjoyed the first non-chaotic week that we've had in quite some time. I mean, it's been good catching up on some things that I've wanted to look into, kind of resetting from the 2021 season, kind of going through some of the, things that happen. Basically, I think you get so caught up in the week to week grind that you kind of miss out on the big picture aspect of performance and those sorts of things. So reviewing a lot of that. We are doing some hiring in my area, the research developments. We're gonna have some new data scientists here at some point, hopefully to continue to produce some of the best betting tools available out there for NFL and college football. So it's exciting times, I will say, even without football action.
That's awesome. So, do you have a list of things that you just put off during the season and now you're I need to do whatever it is, I need to get this done, either around the house or just life-wise? Because I definitely was there. For the last week, I was wow, I have so much more time, but I don't want to do all these things.
Right. I definitely have some house things. I'm sure my wife also has some house things. I do have work things as well that I'm I'm going to look at this in the off season. You get ideas watching football and everything else, and it's just put it in a list, look at it in the off season. So I have all of the above things that I need to still hit on here. So we'll see.
More TikTok content.
Yeah, more TikTok. I did have a TikTok. I'm trying to, I think Eric Eager wants to be the TikTok star. I'm hoping to at least be able to stay close to him, but we'll see if that happens. I got to still produce. So if you're on TikTok, follow me, PFF_. I think it's BB still. Ben Brown, I'm going to change it to here soon enough. So perfect.
I know. You'll have to not let, that's what I tried to do with Austin. Austin's trying to be the TikTok guy, and I'm going to try and get as many followers as Austin Gale.
Right.
So far, it's a weird app, so I just need to keep doing it. But follow us on TikTok and everywhere else, but specifically TikTok. All right, so let's jump into it then. How was the 2021 season just for you in general? I know we had conversations where you were saying it was kind of a weird season betting wise, but overall, how did you do, I guess, and how would you kind of categorize this season?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there were definitely, it was weird, right? I think 2020 was really weird from a COVID perspective. We did have some, residual impacts of it in 2021, but there's still a lot of, late breaking injury news, all this other things that kind of did, mess up a lot of things that happened either in the player prop market or the game market. So I am really pleased with the NFL and NCAA green line products and how they performed this year. I think overall NFL on 1% or greater edges was up just under $2,000 if you flat staked $100 bets on everything that had an edge of 1% or greater on the NFL. So positive 8.25% ROI. So pretty good. Probably our best, definitely our best NFL betting season from a green line perspective. College football was even better. We were actually up almost $4,000 for $100 unit better on edges 2% or greater, 11.6% ROI return on investment on that. So really good from a college football perspective. It was the first year that both NFL and college football have been profitable in the same year. So I think that was a big win. So yeah, I think a lot of people are definitely pleased with that. Super Bowl performed really well as well.
Perfect.
My colleague friend Martin Carlisle and I did a lot of the game prop pricing. That was up almost $1,325 on 34 bets. So anything with an edge. So definitely had a pretty profitable Super Bowl. We're going back through all the player prop markets still. There's just a ton of data and some things that we have to do behind the scenes to put all that together. But player props were kind of tough, I would say, this year for me personally. I think part of it was I probably focused too much on betting overs. The year prior, I had a really successful year and I was mainly writing up under. So I think that was something that maybe I just got caught up a little bit too much in certain things. But I also think there's some tweaks to the modeling that we do as well that are probably going to change that I do think will definitely set us in the right direction here for 2022 from a player props perspective. So
are there things you're going overall? That's a great season though. I feel like you're like downplaying it a lot, and it's just like it was actually a really great year for you guys, especially because if people know, like this was the first big year. Like Green Line looked so good on pff.com/betting. Like those tools were just so helpful to see like the edges and what you really should be looking at. So when you're going into the offseason, then are there things that you can tell us that you're kind of, that you and the team are doing differently or going in and like changing things out a little bit? What can we be looking for during the offseason that you think will help in next season? Yeah,
definitely. So we definitely have that, evaluation process. There's always, and especially when you're like building sports betting models, like there's absolutely things that I think you have to do every offseason in order to probably stay ahead of the market, right? Like if you even have a successful year like we did from a Green Line perspective, like the market can still capture that information that we're putting out there, potentially, not necessarily reverse engineer, but at least understand how it's doing, and that edge probably gets diminished quite a bit, right? So the only way to combat that is to make it sharper, to make it better, to make it more accurate. And I do think that there are a lot of things that we still, Eric and I, and to a lesser extent some other people, are definitely going to be able to do in order to continue to improve on it. And I do think we'll continue to see the capabilities of it actually beating the market. And I do think that's basically the goal. So the entire offseason kind of focusing on what can we do to improve these things is definitely a pretty significant undertaking that we're going to have obviously take on and improve upon for the 2022 season. So
And if you weren't in the action, pff.com/betting, you have to do it because now it's just going to be continued to be more profitable. Was there one team that I can't remember who, was there one team that just did you really well this season, or like one, something that you kind of went back on a lot during the 2021 season?
I'm trying to think. I know there was like a couple of college football teams that we were just
you had
way high.
Good,
we were way higher on a couple of college football teams and had like edges on them almost every week, and that did work out really well. Like the Rice Owls was one of the better ones, I would say. So I don't know, like from my personal betting profile, because I honestly don't bet every single pick that Green Line has from an NFL or college football perspective. Like I try and decipher, I try to put in a little bit at least of my own understanding in it. And I do think that one thing that I'm going to focus on a lot more, especially next year, is betting on a little bit longer odd money line plays in college football, especially when you're at like a plus 6.5 point spread and those sorts of things. That range was by far our most profitable area of winning here in 2021. So money lines at like plus 150 to plus 250 odds did really well from a college football perspective in NCAA Greenland. I do think like those are spots that I probably didn't take advantage of enough, where I would probably just a bet on the spread and not the money line. I do think that's something that I'm personally going to try and correct here coming up in the future seasons that I bet. So.
What about in-game betting? Because I know you and Eric started doing some of those during this kind of later in the NFL season, but I feel like that was an interesting, that's a totally different ball game, right? From what you and Eric and everyone does before pregame and things like that. But that seems like a totally different area where you can maybe find some, good value, earn some money there.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think I would say for me personally, that has been the best area to bet on here over the past 2 or 3 seasons. It's a spot that I've tried to focus on because I do believe that it is definitely like the future of the sports betting market in a lot of ways. And, the people that knock it and quite and this and that and want to say like, oh, there's this bad delay and those sorts of things. I do think that is the case on offshore books, but I do think a lot of the legalized sports betting books are doing it well enough now to the point where you can definitely take advantage of it. So but that's a lot more, I would say, like field and opposed to modeling, right? Like we obviously have our inputs for what we like pregame, but actually being able to evaluate what's happening in game and how that should potentially impact, the spread in total, I think is still a really untapped market. So I'm personally planning on doing, some more content driven pieces around in-game betting that hopefully is, a little bit more of like the evergreen variety where people can potentially look at it on any given week and at least get some idea of approaches for how they want to actually bet some of these games live. That's like mainly my goal. But yeah, I think long term, getting some more consumer opportunities around in-game betting is definitely something that we want to do at PFF. So what's
your off season like betting look like? I know you've said USFL.
So
maybe.
WNBA.
You gotta tell us a little bit of your secrets.
Yeah, I do love the WNBA. Especially from a betting perspective, I enjoy it quite a bit. In general, I know Eric's really excited for the USFL. He loves like the leagues that are just, starting out or whatever, because there's so much unknown. I think that he has done really well, quantifying how well teams are going to perform right away and kind of basing it on some pretty decent priors that we have at PFF, and has been really successful doing that. So I'm excited to tail him and ride along with him in the USFL. But yeah, I'm really excited for WNBA, and I do think PFF behind the scenes, we're obviously looking at as many opportunities as we can from a sports betting perspective in order to give consumers as much actionable information, content, and tools as we possibly can. So part of my job now is even just like evaluating other sports betting opportunities in other markets and seeing if there's anything that we could potentially do there now or in future years. So that's, it's an exciting time, I would say, for sure at PFF, and we're only, we're only going to get better and stronger.
We're only getting started
moving forward. Right.
I know. That's why you listen to this podcast, though, because I know Ben is going to sprinkle in some of his favorite like WNBA, USFL bets during this off season, and it's just, I'm telling you got to keep up, because that's what I'm going to write them all down. That's what we're doing. So let's get into let's do quarterback landing spots. So we kind of went back and forth on what we wanted to talk about on this podcast, but we're going to keep doing this podcast hopefully once a week during the off season to just give everyone, your thoughts on what you're betting on this off season and things like that, keeping up with NFL news. So I think the best spot to start with is quarterbacks and their landing spots. So just to even set the stage here, how are you looking at the quarterback landing spots market, and how are you finding the value there and what you think is going to happen?
Yeah, definitely. I do think that, in some ways the market maybe overprices people changing teams, right? Like Russell Wilson potentially changing a team. Aaron Rodgers changing a team as well. But these are some of my favorite markets that I've ever bet, basically because of the Tom Brady situation in 2019. That was one of my better bets, hitting him to go to Tampa Bay 2 years ago. So I've always at least like tracked this market really closely from that time period. I'm not seeing really like a ton of value in the offerings right now. I know our friends, at DraftKings basically have Aaron Rodgers next team minus 250 for the Green Bay Packers. I do still think that makes a lot of sense. But if you want to potentially, roll the dice a little bit, I do think there are some teams that are probably a little bit undervalued, at least as far as like getting one of these top 3 or 4 guys that could potentially be available. I do think there are teams that are overpriced, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think really have the quality around them to really entice another veteran quarterback. I think that's maybe one reason why Tom Brady retired as well, given the constraints that they're going to have available. But I do think there are teams that maybe are a little bit more under the radar that could potentially make a move. I know our friend Brad Spielberger liked Russell Wilson to go to the Eagles. He liked Kirk Cousins to go to the Carolina Panthers. I do think if those teams land those types of quarterbacks, especially in their division, that they should almost not necessarily move to like as the favorite, especially for Philadelphia, but I do think that in a weak NFC South, Carolina could potentially compete for that division with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. So it definitely changes things. I do think that if you are doing any futures betting right now, you obviously have to take into account what is going to be maybe a pretty decent shift or a carousel in the quarterback market here leading into the 2022 season. I basically see it as like there's 7 teams that I think really need a new starting quarterback from 2021. I think there's probably like 6 teams who probably should have another quarterback. That's 13 of the 32 NFL teams. So I think maybe if we get close to half of that, that's obviously going to have a pretty big impact on the futures market. So it's interesting, I would say.
It is interesting. Sure. It's a fun time to be doing this too, because I know that there's an article up on PFF.com about just landing spots for the top 50 free agents. Are you focusing, is there some, I mean, because you look at guys like Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, then you go to guys like Mariota, Trubisky, Fitzpatrick. Are you, what do you think about them? Like Jameis Winston, there's one saying, you know, he's going, you know, New Orleans, Teddy Bridgewater, maybe the Buccaneers. Are there any ways that you're looking at those kind of free agents and saying, okay, this is a good time to place those bets rather than kind of thinking about Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson right now?
I mean, I would say no, because I think that wherever they end up, I think it's going to be it's not necessarily going to be a net negative for that particular team, but I do think from a betting market perspective, that's how bettors are going to evaluate it, and that's how the market's probably going to move, right? So if you see, you know, like Jameis Winston re-up with the New Orleans Saints, I think we're going to probably see their odds, you know, maybe it stays the same, maybe it, you know, moves just a little bit, I would say, away from them, and they probably get longer odds, I would say, to win the division. Similar thing with Tampa Bay, right? If they land Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to where they're priced at now for the NFC South, right? Because teams like Denver, teams like Tampa Bay, there's some element baked into the fact that they could land a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or they could land a guy like Russell Wilson or something like that. So then if it happens where one of these other free agents of the, you know, much lower tier actually goes there, I think that's basically the news to react on from the betting market perspective. And they're probably not going to be as high on those teams as what they would have been with the allure that maybe Aaron Rodgers or maybe Russell Wilson lands in one of those two destinations. So
wait, give me your Aaron Rodgers prediction right now. I just need it on the record because we've been like, you know, I do social for PFF, and last night when he puts out this 10 swipe photo collage, I'm like, okay, is he retiring? I'm up. I'm that person, and we have to speculate. I'm so sorry, everyone who follows us. You have to do it. Then he goes on McAfee today, and he's like, there's no news. There's nothing. I don't know, Ben. Tell me he's staying in Green Bay.
He loves the drama.
He loves the drama.
It is annoying to me as like a closet Minnesota fan that it's just like, it's always like Aaron Rodgers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I honestly, I'm not going to bet it because it's a heavy favorite, but I do actually think that Aaron Rodgers, outside of Kyler Murray, out of all the quarterbacks being speculated to move that are in this very, like, I would say upper echelon of quarterback play, I do think he's the most likely to stay where he's currently at. So I do think he's going to stay in Green Bay. I think Kyler Murray's probably going to stay in Arizona. And I do think it's going to be, you know, Russell Wilson potentially moving to a team is my prediction right now. So
okay, all right, that's it. That is interesting that you say Kyler, because I didn't even think of that. That situation has got, talk about weird, because he goes and he deletes his Instagram stuff, but then the team comes out and says, you know, he's not a team guy. We're trying to push him to go out on the last final couple drives, and he's not doing it. But there's negotiations coming up too with him and his contract, so that's a sticky situation. But you think he's staying? Potentially Rodgers staying, so you're seeing Russell Wilson as like the one big candidate to be going somewhere. Maybe the Eagles, maybe the Saints.
I mean, the Eagles would be kind of interesting, I would say, for sure. You know, there's obviously a couple other teams. I mean, I know it's weird to say or anything, but like the Watson thing seems like it. I don't know what's going to happen with that either. But you know, when he was playing, he was like, you know, he has the second highest PFF passing grade in a season of any quarterback in PFF history. So like, he's obviously somebody who I'm not, you know, obviously the situation with him, it needs to be resolved before anything else happens, but he is the type of player that is obviously going to improve the chances of a team making the playoffs if he lands there. But I have no idea how that whole thing is going to go either. So I do think Russell Wilson is going to be the biggest player from, you know, a trade perspective. And I do think that there are a few spots that definitely make sense. I do expect to see him stay in the NFC.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, the AFC is just like, you know, quality quarterback, you know, fest basically right now,
Exactly.
right? Like if you beat Kansas City, then you have to beat Buffalo, and then you still have, Cincinnati and Baltimore and everything else. So I do think that, if we do see any of these big quarterback shifts, it's going to be to another team in the NFC. But, Philadelphia, I like Jalen Hurts quite a bit. I do think they can make the playoffs and potentially win the NFC East with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. But in saying that, I also think Russell Wilson would be a pretty decent upgrade over Hurts. And I would bet them probably up to being at even odds with Dallas to win the NFC East if they had Russell Wilson in the fold. So I think that's a pretty good landing spot for him. Outside of that, I mean, Carolina kind of makes a little bit of sense. It'll be interesting to see what happens with San Francisco as well. But I think from my perspective, they're a team that I think is probably going to regress. So we'll see. The
49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers. So
yeah, it makes sense with whatever's going on. What about Jimmy G? Are you looking at him in any situation or scenario? Not really.
I mean, I think he's gonna. I think we're definitely gonna see Trey Lance as the starting quarterback for San Francisco. So it does depend on where Jimmy G ends up. I see. To me, that he's a player that seems like he might end up in a spot like Denver. I guess is kind of like my thinking. I know they obviously want to land somebody probably better than Jimmy G, but he might be a decent consolation prize, I would say, for a team that absolutely has to do something.
And it's not, we haven't touched on it, and we will in these next few podcasts, but like the draft is not where you probably want to be looking right now for top tier quarterback play. And that's kind of something you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean the draft gurus and everybody else are not high on the quarterback prospects. I mean, in my evaluation of the college football, I haven't seen anybody that's eye-popping either. I'm definitely intrigued by a couple people. Like I like Malik Willis. I like Sam Howell. In 2020 and 2021, obviously he took a pretty significant step back, but I think those two guys, like at least as far as maybe getting a year to sit, I would like to see them play in certain destinations. But outside of that, I think it's could be a dark season for the rookie quarterbacks. It's not as fun of a draft as we've had, where it's like where a lot of these things are coming on, and there's a lot of things could happen from it. So I understand that. Give me some other, like, what are you thinking? Give me some other quarterback landing spots that you like. What about Carson Wentz? There were some rumors. I know, I'm sorry. But there were some rumors though about them moving on, or like what's the significance of keeping him, and what's worse or better. Same with Derek Carr. Sam Monson came out with that article saying you should probably pay him because the alternative is worse than what they could get. So is there anything that you're watching for the next few weeks, couple months, that you're like, things could move here, but it could move at a slower pace than we could see it happening in a month, a few months, anything like that? Yeah, I mean, I don't really necessarily agree with Sam Monson's take on the Derek Carr situation. I don't think that they necessarily have to re-up with him. I do agree, Eric Ears talked about it before, but if you're at the quarterback position, if you're going to fail cheaply, right? So I'd much rather have a guy on a rookie deal playing as, the 25th to 30th best quarterback in the NFL than a guy on a veteran deal that's basically giving you league average numbers, right? Like, I do think there's something to be said for the fact that it's much harder to win with those sorts of expectations. So, like a guy like Derek Carr, given that everything around him probably exceeded expectations in a lot of ways, I just think that they're a candidate that's probably not going to, be as successful as they were in 2021, again here in 2022. So don't love it. I mean, I don't know. I think the really fun domino would be if Aaron Rodgers actually does go to Tennessee, where he's building the house, where we heard the rumors from a couple weeks ago, because then that kind of resets Ryan Tannehill, and then we're going to have this like whole domino effect where we have like 15, 16 different starting quarterbacks from this year to next year. And that's kind of the one that I'm really hoping for. But again, in saying that, I said it's probably pretty unlikely that Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay. But if he does and he goes to Tennessee, I think there's just going to be mass chaos coming up here for the next month and a half, which I would like a front row seat to.
We're here for it. We need it. Sure. It's kind of like the coaching domino. Once one gets hired, that's what happens. That happens every year. Once one gets hired, you see all in like the next 3 days, usually, they all come down together. So if you had to guess, and you were, this is quarterback landing spots, what you would put your money on, what is one that you really like that you're telling our podcast listeners, like, hey, monitor this, or maybe keep an eye on it because it might be something in the future that makes you money?
Oh boy. All right. I am going to say, this is a tough one. I don't know, because there's not a ton of great markets, I would say for sure. But I don't think, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think that we will have probably a rookie quarterback starting in Pittsburgh. So I'm looking at, maybe a guy like Carson Strong or Sam Howell, or maybe Malik Willis, I think makes a lot of sense. But I think right now, Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph are basically like the odds on favorite. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. I don't think there's any way that they go with Jameis Winston at quarterback, and they just don't have enough of the, they don't have enough firepower, I would say, to go land a guy like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers in a trade. So I do think we're going to probably see, Malik Willis there. Maybe it's Sam Howell, maybe it's Matt Corral, but a rookie quarterback in Pittsburgh, I think, makes too much sense. So sprinkling a little bit on that is definitely a spot that I'm getting involved with. So.
See, you said you didn't know. That's a perfect answer. That's what I think it's Austin Gale who has his mock draft, who's 2-round mock draft up, and he does have them trading down to pick up a quarterback because he kind of said the same exact thing as you. So sprinkle it on there. That's what I'm going to do right after this. There we
go. I love the consensus, right? That's
I know.
The synergy just happens. That's when magic happens.
We're company people. We're company people. We all think alike.
Most of the time,
except when we're fading green line, which is almost never. But
never
we try not to. Never again. Anything else you want to leave with quarterback wise, futures wise? I know, just to tease our next podcast, we are going to do a ton of futures coming up next week, and we're going to have guests on throughout the offseason and things like that. But anything else you want to leave us with?
I mean, no, I'm excited for the futures. I'm already locked in some. We're going to have a lot of great information coming up here next week. And then, I'm thinking we should maybe almost start discussing like a mailbag type of podcast or something like that. So if anybody has any questions, wants to get them in to talk about on a future podcast, definitely hit up Kendall or I in the DMs. We'll definitely, make it happen and get some advice, whether you want to talk about evergreen content or teams, how we're approaching them in 2022 or anything else. Definitely let us know, because we're trying to get you guys more involved here as you listen to us throughout the off season. So.
Yep, we're just trying to make money here. That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
What do you got any show recommendations? I started Love Is Blind. Don't recommend, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I started the I did finish Ozarks. I absolutely love.
I heard that was really good.
I do love Ozarks, and then now I'm watching the Inside Anna what is it? Anna Inside.
Yeah,
I don't know
Anna.
What I gotta look it up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
Inside Anna or something. Is that what it is?
It's like
Inventing Anna. Inventing. Yeah.
Yes,
Inventing Anna is what it is. Sorry. Completely.
I heard that one was really good though too.
Yeah. My wife watched it without me, so now I got to run it back here again as well.
Oh no!
Very rude.
That's so rude. If you want complete and utter chaos, Love Is Blind. Eric, right. I'm telling you.
Okay. All right.
I'm telling you.
I'm going in on it here now because I got a little bit of time. I mean, I'm usually a pretty big documentary guy, and that's really the only thing I watch. But outside of NFL and college football,
don't watch this. You're gonna message me and be like, "This is trash," and I'm totally letting everyone know, Ben, it's trash. But it's like a train wreck. You can't look away, and it's just like, this can't be real. These people can't be real, and they are, and it's insane to me.
See, I'm gonna check it out because I actually. And this is like a closet story. I probably shouldn't say this, but after Mike Renner was on Bachelor or The Bachelor or whatever, and I told my wife, and she watched it. Then I wanted to. Then for some reason she was watching Bachelor in Paradise, and I got like absolutely hooked on that show. And now I like mildly enjoy it from time to time if it's on or something like that. So if Bachelor in Paradise is anything like this Love Is Blind, then I'll probably at least get through it here pretty quickly in the off season.
Oh yeah, then you'll be a big fan because it's utter chaos, and it's like. These people, they're dating, but they're in like these they can't see each other. And then they try and get married in 4 weeks. So they see if they're compatible, not by looks, which the premise is, nice.
Love
is blind, Ben. You got to jump in on it. I'm telling you. Just let me know when you watch it. Everyone, if you watch it, you know who loves it? Austin. I think Austin Gale loves it. He said the premise is great or something like that. I don't know. It's train wreck. I'm letting you know. All right, everyone, follow Ben Brown and I, not only on TikTok, but on Twitter. We're going to try and get something out to get a mailbag together, but we will be trying to do these every week. I know for sure we've got futures coming up, so stick with us next week for that one. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.